All right, let's do the top 10 worst films of 2025 for me. This is just my personal opinion. If you disagree, you can comment or whatever, but overall, it's just, film is subjective, so take it easy. These aren't in any order, by the way. So the first one is A House of Dynamite, directed by Catherine Bigelow. There's a reason why this one was shafted to Netflix, because it's a terrible movie. This is a sort of nuclear war on the precipice sort of thing going off when a rogue warhead goes off. And people start scrambling, but they repeat the plot like Rashomon, and it's not that good. It's got a pretty big cast, but overall this is like a nothing sandwich where nothing really happens. The movie literally cuts to black before you get any resolution or anything. So overall, it's a very weak film. It never would have survived in a box office theater. So that is very disappointing for a director who's done stuff like Zero Dark 30, Hurt Locker, and Detroit. All right, the next one is Him. Everyone thought Jordan Peele directed this movie, but he only produced it. This one's about a young, talented football player who gets injured before a camp. However, he gets taken away to a special training camp by his hero, a goat, who apparently had like a career-ending tragedy sort of injury, however recovered, and he's trying to groom him to be the next amazing football player. But this camp is isolated. He doesn't know what's going on. There's some shady cult stuff going on. The movie has some interesting ideas, but overall, I think the movie looks flashy. It has a lot of style, but not a lot of substance, especially that finale. It's just really weak. It's a movie that could have had more football action in there as well, but we're sort of isolated to just one area in the camp. Doesn't have much to say in terms of theme either, so Him is definitely a disappointment. Seems to be a startling trend of directors who used to be really good, but Ethan Coen and his wife made this lesbian trilogy, and the second one in the trilogy is Honey Don't. And I mainly watch this movie for Margaret Qualley. She's a lesbian private detective who's getting involved in a murder of someone who crashed their car. She's trying to prove that it was malicious, and it's pretty boring. In fact, this movie was so boring that a guy fell asleep in our theater in the front row and was snoring for a good 30 minutes until someone woke him up. Yeah, the movie does have a good cast, but they're underutilized, and it's got a couple of twists in here, but it was pretty much a snore fest, to be honest. I really didn't like this one. The trailer definitely made it seem more action-packed than it was. You know, and I know that Weapons would never escape this list. A lot of people thought that me making that review saying it's the worst film I've ever seen in theaters was a clickbait thing, but no. I still contest that Weapons is such a boring, filler-filled waste of time. This movie had such a great concept and marketing hype, and watching the film, it honestly feels like this director is a one-trick pony. Whenever he comes up with an idea, maybe it's not long enough, so he decides to just add in filler. So Barbarian did the same thing with the whole Justin Long comes in out of nowhere, spends 30 minutes looking around the house, and then finally joins the cast. This movie does the same thing with all the characters. There's like 5 or 6 POVs, and I think the director even wanted to make this Magnolia-sized and make it 3 hours and have more people perspectives, and I'm like, leave this alone, man, please. Like, I'll watch the next Resident Evil movie, but if it's gonna be just like 20 different perspectives walking around a zombie-infested city, then count me out, because I'm getting sick of this trope. This seems to be working for him. People seem to be liking it. I don't like it. Weapons did have some good cinematography, and I like the cast, but the movie's a chore to get through, and I don't like the finale. Highest to Lowest is another movie that, comes from Spike Lee. I love Spike Lee, but he seems to be losing his touch, because this is a movie about a music mogul who's trying to go independent with his label. However, his son is kidnapped. This is based off of the book that would influence High and Low, which in itself is a pretty perfect movie. So I don't know why Spike Lee wanted to do this movie. So he makes this another version of the same story of a rich man's son being kidnapped, and then he finds out his son's not kidnapped. It's actually a friend of the son, but the ransom still stands, and it becomes a morality tale of whether the rich man is going to pay the ransom for a child that's not his. And this movie's long, it's pretentious, the music's awkward. It'll switch from like an Inside Man-like score to like Irish themed. Like, it's just such an odd choice of music. And I didn't like Denzel's fine, he's always good. But yeah, the movie just didn't have the right energy, to be honest. And And some of the scenes were incredulous, especially the ransom drop-off and the finale. This one just didn't hit for me. I even like paid extra to watch it in an independent theater and made my friend go, who's a huge Denzel fan, and we did not like the movie. So the trend continues of legacy sequels or directors who have a really good career and their latest movie is not good. This next one is 28 years later. This is Danny Boyle returning to the franchise. He didn't do the second one, but he did the first one. And not everyone's back, though. We're following a sort of village living on a sort of island of sorts. They have like a sort of moat thing. And there's some interesting themes of toxic masculinity in this movie, but it's just too artsy-fartsy for me. Whenever they shoot an arrow into an infected person's face, they try to do like a cool snapshot thing. You know, there's some cool chase scenes here and there, but overall, the second half movie becomes very elegiac and changes its pace and tone, and then it introduces a ridiculous thing at the end. And I mean, the acting's pretty solid, and I liked Jodie Comer, but the movie just didn't gel. It felt really underwhelming. I really just didn't like this movie. It just didn't sit right with me. This next one hurts because it's a working man with Jason Statham, with the same filmmaker as Beekeeper. However, this movie is not as good as The Beekeeper. The Beekeeper leaned into its sort of cheesy 90s sort of action style plot of a man who has to avenge his friend who is a scam to crypto bros who scammed her out of like $90,000 or something. So he decides to go on a rampage and use his former skills as a beekeeper, a nickname of someone who protects the hive. So he's some sort of special agent that is so awesome and so cool and badass that he goes after rogue elements that affect society. So he's gone off the script because he's no longer a beekeeper, but he wants to use his skills. So they send another beekeeper after him and other mercenaries as he goes after and works his way up through a series of enemies. But this, sorry, I got lost in a tangent, but A Working Man is not good. A Working Man is based off a novel. In this one, Jason Statham plays a construction worker who's friends with the family. However, the daughter of his boss gets kidnapped during a bar crawl, I guess, and he has to rescue her, and it's boring, not enough action, really cliche, doesn't use tools or construction stuff to defeat the enemies. It's all just very threadbare. I didn't like this one. Still continuing the trend of directors I really like, but their latest movie just kind of sucks. And Oz Perkins' The Monkey is the next one. I didn't like this one. Longlegs was great, but his follow-up is a sort of way of making him sort of... In an interview, he described that this movie is about how death can be random. And it was very therapeutic for him because he lost his mom during 9/11, and he lost his father from AIDS, so he was trying to deal with that. And originally he was going to make this just like a normal horror film, but he decided to make it a ridiculous sort of horror comedy, and I didn't like what he was trying to do. People in this movie just explode for no reason. They don't really follow the laws of physics. Some of the kills are random, so they don't really have much emotional meaning, and it's fun once in a while to watch someone just completely explode or whatever. But you can't just lean on that for the entire movie. This movie's about twins, and one of them's evil or something, and he's got like a monkey that randomly kills people. It's based off of a Stephen King short story, but it doesn't have a lot of dramatic heft. I really didn't like this one. I like Theo James, but this movie just didn't really connect well or have any real emotional stakes or anything. It just felt kind of random, which he was going for, but I didn't like it. Love Hurts is an action comedy starring Ke Quan. After his Oscar win, he kind of can do whatever he wants. So he does this cheap action movie about a real estate agent who used to be an assassin, and his brother wants to kill him because he didn't kill someone he was supposed to because he fell in love with her or something. And this movie's super short. It's only like an hour, 19 minutes. The fight scenes aren't good because they're really wire work coded. They don't feel like real gritty action scenes, even though it's going for like a Jackie Chan kind of comedy infused fight thing, and it's really short and the flashbacks aren't good. He has no chemistry with Ariana DeBose, another Oscar winner. So it's like Oscar winners hanging out and stuff, but I really just didn't like this movie. It wasn't action-packed, it wasn't funny, too short of a story. Sean Astin was really good in the movie, but that's about it. All right, and the last one for the list is the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake from 2025. This movie is just really disjointed and it swings for the fences. They introduce a new element to Billy's sort of rampage, but the movie doesn't have the best kills. And there's a scene where he fights like 50 people and kills them all. It feels like a cheap action movie. Finale's okay, but overall, kind of a weak narrative. Is trying to do too much with its sort of narrative. The original was literally a person mentally ill killing people in a Santa costume. This one tried to be like a supernatural thriller and then a vigilante thriller and a romance and a horror and a slasher. It just ducked around a little bit too much. So that's my list of the 10 worst films of 2025 for me.